Update 7.6 is here, and we have new refines for Brunnya, Tanya, Igrene, Valentines, Rudolf, and Nagi. Let's talk about what everyone got and go over some general playstyle and build ideas. First up is Brunnya, a blue infantry mage and a heroic grail unit. Brunnya has decent HP and attack with some speed and res as well. She does have low defense, but Brunnya did have a niche as a mage who could take a hit or two, and her refine for Fimbulvetr kind of plays into that identity. Base Fimbulvetr got a small change. It still grants +3 flat res, and at start of combat, if a penalty is active on Brunnya, if Brunnya has less than full health, or if the foe has more than 75% HP, neutralize stat penalties and grant +4 all stats during combat. Fimbulvetr can now proc without Brunnya being hurt or hit by a debuff. For the refine, if unit is within 3 spaces of an ally, grant +4 all stats and inflict attack and res debuffs on the foe during combat. If Brunnya is within 3 spaces of her support partner, she gets a follow-up attack. Now, the attack and res debuffs are equal to 10 minus the foe's max special cooldown times 2. If they have a 1 cooldown special, Brunnya inflicts the max minus 8 attack and res. If they have a 4 cooldown special, you inflict the minimum minus 2 attack and res. If you feel like you've seen this weapon, then you would not be far off. Fimbulvetr's refine is almost the exact same bucket of effects that are on Yuan's Pupil's Tome from last month, the major difference being Yuan gets damage reduction, which Brunnya really would have wanted. These two also have pretty similar stat spreads, so basically whatever I discussed for Yuan can go for Brunnya. The general gist is that Brunnya will be a somewhat bulkier mage, plus 8 total stats, ignores all debuffs, and inflict a decent amount of attack and res debuffs. She has a free follow-up attack, however you must be paired with a support partner and that will limit her. Overall, not a very groundbreaking refine, but if you like mages who aren't complete paper thin, then Brunnya may be a fun project. I do have something new to talk about since Yuan's refine, and that is the introduction of the new no follow-up 4B skills on the upcoming banner. Magic, no follow, inflicts -4 speed and res debuffs, the usual no follow-up effects, and partially pierces damage reduction skills on every attack. You cut %DR skills by 50%, no special proc are needed. For Brunnya, you could run this as an offensive build that isn't relying on the usual special spiral for burst damage. If you can't deal with Scowl or Guard, then this may be an option, and Brunnya appreciates no follow-up in general. She is fast enough to use it against super slow tanks. You compare this with the other offensive skills like Remote Sparrow or Mirror for 30% DR and attack and res, or speed and res Menace lets Brunnya be threatening if foes aren't careful. I wouldn't exactly suggest speed stacking, but it can work offensively and defensively if you do want to go that route. If you want to be more passive, Brunnya can try to tank it out with things like her tier 3 dual stances, Guard 4, Seal Attack 4, and lulls. If you want someone to deal with the healer renaissance, then Mystic Boost 4 is the hard counter, plus it works against dragons too. An issue with this is trying to tank physical damage. Brunnya can do it better than a full glass cannon, but you still need to invest in extra defense hard, and again, DR skills would be nice. Like Yuan, maybe Brunnya can run the new dual sabotage skills, but that requires way more flat res. You could settle for a rally plus ruse combo with things like Giant Dust and Guard. In the end, mages like Brunnya and Yuan are not focused on pure damage output. Sure, they can run Finish 4, Special Spiral 4, and Times Pulse, but it's tough to work without innate slaying or other special related perks. Something that can make these mages a bit more interesting is bread type cooldown support. This is why I always value cooldown support from units like the new legendary Hinoka. Being able to get to Glacies in 2 actions or just charging Glimmer for a counterattack can make them much deadlier, while having the bulk glass cannon mages don't have. Fimbulvetr got an okay refine, but it's definitely not going to shake things up without some help. Our next refine goes to Tanya, a colorless infantry archer demo. Tanya got a bit screwed on her release, since she was part of a group of instant demos that at the time got less base stats. Norn released earlier and overshadowed Tanya from the start. With the Violdrake Bow, Tanya gets a step out of Norn's shadow a little bit. This 14-weight weapon states, at start of combat, if unit has 125% HP, grant plus for all stats, deal true damage on hit equal to 10% speed, and Tanya gets adaptive damage. Not a bad base effect. Tanya has decent speed, but not the best base attack, so a little true damage and adaptive damage will both contribute to better offensive power. For the refine, if foe has more than 75% HP or an active penalty, grant plus 4 stats, inflict deals on the foe equal to the current penalty on the foe's stats. Tanya will get more general stats and the Pledgeon, or the foe penalty doubler effect. If they have -6 attack debuffs, you tack on another -6 in combat. Overall, plus 8 tall stats and full penalty doubler can give Tanya a nice combative boost. Unlike Brunnya, Tanya can't get extra speed advantages. As for damage, Tanya gets a little true damage on hit and adaptive damage, which is always nice to see. If bows stack too much defense but not enough res, Tanya can get a ton of free extra damage. Considering most of the demos that refines this year, Violdrake Bow got an interesting niche. In terms of playstyles, Tanya isn't too different from Brunnya in that she can take a hit thanks to her general stat boost, and assuming you can apply those attack debuffs, which will get doubled. However, we can also focus on speed easier. Tanya has a decent starting base speed with full investment, and if you want self-debuffing, menace skills seem ideal for the job. If you use a speed menace, Tanya gets plus 6 speed, she inflicts minus 6 speed debuffs, and her weapon doubles that for another minus 6. This is an 18 speed advantage, which can easily shift the fight if the foe does not deal with it. Same idea for attack debuffs. Minus 6 attack becomes minus 12, and you can stack on more in combat stats. On the other hand, Defense Menace can also work thanks to adaptive damage. Tanya benefits from both debuffs and she gets field buffs as well. I do think you want speed debuffs the most for Tanya, however, the lower the foe's defense and res plus adaptive damage means Tanya deals more base damage, and this is what Deadeye scales off of. Obviously, Deadeye is great for DR piercing, but Tanya will need cooldown reduction to consistently proc it. Without slaying, you need any Times Pulse or Flashing Blade at the least, and any guard effects which just ruin a 1-round activation. For the highest potential, Tanya probably needs ally support. She wants a lot of perks like no follow-up, no guard, or cooldown reduction, and you still need debuffing for her refine. Lots of wants, tough to fit into one kit. If you can bring a debuffing team or ally, then Tanya can run more selfish things like Times Pulse or Attacking Speed Oath 4. One interesting option is Panic Smoke 4. It will be a mixed phase skill more, but once it procs, it gives Tanya the full penalty doubler status, which stacks with her weapon. Additionally, Panic debuffs on the foe count as debuffs, so you can reach some insane numbers in certain scenarios. For this kind of full debuff focused stat kit, you could slot in the other no follow-up 4 skill, Physical No Follow. This lets Tanya get some DR piercing while running the lower cooldown Glimmer or Ruptured Sky. Also, it grants defensive benefits, but you can outsource no follow-up as a status or use the Sacred Seal. For some other skills, if you let Tanya's team debuff actively with, say, like a dagger debuff, then she could use the new Wings of Mercy 4 to fly in to follow up. You could use this with Unity skills if Tanya was in a defensive formation. Speaking of defense, any DR skills like Remote Sparrow or Guard 4 would be nice to have. Bonus doubler can be fun if you got a full buff and debuffing team. Now obviously, if the enemy can neutralize debuffs, like say Brunnya, then Violdrake Bow loses a lot of steam. Adaptive damage is nice, but Tanya still wants as much attack as possible to take advantage, and she's starting from a kinda low base value. Tanya definitely won't be dominating, but she at least gets a couple nice perks to carve herself a niche. Moving on, we have Igrene, a red infantry archer with pretty good attacking speed. Her Guardian's Bow had a bug turned feature, but this refines will simplify things. Accelerates special trigger if unit initiates combat or is faster with a 7 speed advantage, then inflict minus 5 attack speed and defense and reduce the foe's first attack by 30% during combat. As mentioned, this weapon had a weird condition beforehand, but the devs have gotten rid of that. Always active on the player phase, and if you want to do enemy phase, then Igrene needs to win a speed check, but she gets a 7 speed buffer. Her slaying plus debuffs are the same, but she now gets 30% DR for taking hits. Further refined, if unit has 125% HP, grant plus for all stats, deal true damage equal to 10% speed, gain no guard, and neutralize enemy speed and defense field buffs. Like with our previous two refines, Igrene basically got plus 9 to all stats for fighting. However, Igrene gets damage reduction instead of extra debuffs, and it's always appreciated. In terms of damage, she gets no guard and low speed and defense, with some speed scaling true damage that does work on AoE specials. I mentioned it for Tanya, but Igrene gets a bit more perks to work with, especially for offense. She will ramp up to a special activation, and consistent special spam is Igrene's specialty. In terms of builds, Igrene comes with an area effect special Sparrow build. She has Life and Death 4 and Special Sparrow 3, which will keep the loop going. With no guard, she guarantees the loop continues even against guard skills. Her Refine's true damage will apply to the AoE, and if you do upgrade to Special Sparrow 4, you get an extra plus 5 true damage. If Igrene can hit 50 flat speed with double life and death, then you can add another around plus 10 true damage on the AoE proc. Her original problem of getting the special charged is still present. You can use Times Pulse, but you need outside help to get another 2 cooldown. You could run Quick Impulse if you want as well. If you have a bunch of cooldown support, then you could substitute the fun attacking speed with 4 in, attack buffs, and warping benefit AoE spam just fine. Next, Igrene can lean into the other special spamming builds. With Time's Pulse, you can pre-charge any 2 cooldown special thanks to Sling. Since she has no guard, she will recharge the special when she takes a counter, which means double procs are possible. Obviously, Finish 4 synergizes with pre-charging builds. Without Deadeye, you can once again run the new physical no follow. Igrene does need no follow-up somehow to consistently double, and you're going to get that partial 50% DR piercing on both attacks. If you get no follow-up from elsewhere, you could run Seal Defense 4 or Seal Speed 4, or perhaps Guard 4 for extra protection and DR stacking. It is also possible to double proc 3 cooldown specials like Deadeye if Igrene can get a Breath type cooldown status. For example, Legendary Hineka. With no guard, she can recharge Deadeye when getting hit back, and if you keep Special Spiral, then you can recharge the loop for later. With Special Spiral for its innate DR piercing, you can instead run Luna instead of Deadeye. Overall, Igrene's Refine is pretty simple but effective. Like our first 2 units, you get better general survivability, but Igrene also gets consistent special setup. Her AoE build gets consistent after the fact, but you still need to get to pre-charge it. For Deadeye or other specials, no guard is very nice, and 30% DR will help get to a double. Igrene does want offensive and follow-up somehow, but you have options for that. If you want consistent specials, Igrene will be able to provide that while also having some pretty good damage and speed. Our season refine goes to Valentines Rudolf, a beefy Lance army unit. With his bright red armor, it may seem like Christmas because Thorn Lance got a very solid refine. 16 might accelerate specials. If unit has more than 25% HP or higher attack at start of combat, inflict -6 attack and defense, prevent a follow-up attack, and reduce damage from attacks by percentage equal to Rudolph's attack minus the foe's attack during combat times 2. This DR has a 40% max, which is met if Rudolf has 20 more attack than the enemy, and it will not work against AoE specials. Worth noting, Rudolf no longer needs to win an at start of combat attack check, but you really want to win the in-combat attack check, otherwise you get no damage reduction. For the refine, if foe initiates or has more than 75% HP, inflict -5 attack and defense on the foe, inflict attack -X on foe, and grant attack +X to Rudolf, with also restoring 7 HP after combat. This X value is 50% of the highest total bonuses among Rudolf or allies within 2 spaces. Dang. Thorn Lance got a rather solid refine. Essentially, Rudolf has a base of -11 attack and defense debuffs. He can then inflict more attack debuffs while gaining bonus attack, and this in turn helps him with win his attack check to get damage reduction. For the extra stats, Rudolf requires field buffs and lots of them. He can also borrow them from nearby allies, which is excellent against low skills. If Rudolf or his team have full +6 field buffs, then that is 24 total bonuses. 50% of that equates to another -12 attack on the foe and +12 attack for Rudolf. -23 attack is not something you want to face, and Rudolf gets +12 attack, which means you kind of get a 30+ attack advantage from this refine when you do the attack check for his damage reduction. That is disgusting. If Rudolf or his team is fully buffed up, then you have one scary Emperor. To make a comparison, Thorn Lance's refine brings a similar skill set as the recent Young Hector. A crap ton of attack debuffs, lots of damage for Rudolf, percent DR for all hits, slaying, and healing. Young Hector's kit is a bit easier to use, but Rudolf doesn't need a ton of complicated setup, he really just wants a full buffing team. If you want to run Armored Beacon, unfortunately, Rudolf isn't really stacking more defense, but he has Slaying, and you can use Distant Counter with Far Save. Like Hector, this gives him unpierceable damage reduction against ranged hits with easy counterattack burst if you run a cooldown skill. Rudolf can use Vengeful Fighter 4 for the Breath type cooldown and will get a free follow-up attack to use. Additionally, he actually stacks follow-up denial, which is actually kind of useful if they're not running offense in the follow-up. Now, if you don't think Rudolf is going to double, then Special Fighter 4 works too, plus it comes with healing and guard. If you were to run near save, then Tier 3 Dual Stance or Unity would be ideal. Regardless of what you run, I do think Rudolf wants to focus on attack skills just to further enhance his chances at getting DR. Sturdy Stance, Mirror Stance, Attacking Defense Unity, etc. His base resistance is a little lacking, but his refine pumps in so many attack debuffs plus adds DR to his kit. Additionally, Rudolf could end up one-shotting squishy attackers, maybe even without a special proc. He is one of those armors that I would focus on damage slightly more. For some other skills, I would say that any future tier 4 armor beast skill could be on the table, just need to see what they get. For Hardy Fighter, Rudolf can make it work, but you'll need extra cooldown for consistency. For whatever reason, if Bold Fighter 4 were to be super busted, then it should be fine with this refine. Thorn lands can proc on both phases, and who knows, we've been getting more armor mobility from things like Guidance 4 and Rain Snap. Generally, Valentine's Rudolf got a major upgrade to compete with the modern armor units. You do want to pair him with an ally that can fully buff all 4 stats, but that's not too difficult to meet. Additionally, if Rudolf is using Savior, you can take the buffs from his target in the case of low effects. Very solid refine. Last up for today is Nagi, a green armored dragon with a very interesting set of skills. Nagi is mostly min-maxed for low speed with higher defense and res, so you already know where this is going. Ethereal Breath has 16 might, excited specials, and the Divine Dragon's signature Dragon Effectiveness. Nagi then has 2 very unusual effects, one being the Raven Tome effect, which is weapon triangle advantage against colorless foes. Second, she has an always active 80% DR against all area effect specials. New to the weapon is if Nagi has more than 25% HP, she inflicts -5 attack and res on the foe and restores 7 HP per attack. Ethereal Breath had 0 stat bonuses, so this refine will remedy that. Nagi gets on-hit healing, so ideally she would like a follow-up if possible. For the refine, if foe initiates or has more than 75% HP, inflict another -5 attack and res, neutralize defense and res penalties, and Nagi gets Dragon Wall damage reduction. Not the most exciting or new refine, but that's mostly because Ethereal Breath is already so unique at base. This weapon had Slain, Dragon Effectiveness, the Raven Tome effect, and 80% TR against any AoE special. This works even if Nagi is not the main target, and it was largely seen as a direct screw you counter to Ophelia back in the day. Well, Ophelia got into the unrefinables group, but Nagi still gets some unique usage now that Savior skills exist, and Colorless Mages also exist. I believe if you face Arvel, Duality, and Ethereal Breath should just make it a neutral matchup, I think. For her bag of niche perks, Nagi will be adding -10 attack and res, defense res penalty neutralization, Dragon Wall, and 7 HP on hit healing. Not bad for a tanky armored dragon. Like I said, you already know where Nagi's build and playstyle are headed. Pure defensive stats, pure defensive skill effects, and a couple niche but good perks in Raven Tome and anti-AoE. Nagi was pretty much made for Savior, and as a dragon who gets triangle advantage against colorless archers, daggers, healers, and now mages, she is primed for far save. Even more so with the Dragon Distant Counter Sacred Seal. However, Nagi can utilize even more new skills, those being Attack and Res Scowl and Armored Flow. It is extremely expensive, but I do believe Nagi is another abuser of the Scowl plus Armored Flow combo that her bridal relatives can use. The general game plan is that first off, Nagi will laugh at any AoE specials, then in combat Scowl uncharges pre-charge specials. If the enemy does charge specials somehow, Scowl has unpierceable damage reduction that also stacks with her innate Dragon Wall DR. If you were to use Vengeful or Special Fighter for breath type cooldown, then Nagi can counterattack with Armored Flow's 40% res burst thanks to Slaying. If she can counter, this burst can just take out a squishy attacker before they even get their second hit. This playstyle is brutal, and you need a lot of things to get around it while also needing to deal with Nagi's Armored Flow counter. Nagi won't have double Dragon Wall, but she has the Raven Tome effect. With Vengeful Fighter 4, you can get Omni Breaker, which would be good. With Special Fighter 4, Nagi gets more healing plus guard. I'd say both are viable, and other tier 4 armor skills in the future could work too. Like with other Scowl plus Dragon Wall users, both want resistance, so stack that as much as possible. I would say near or fire save works for Nagi, but the fire saving dragons I feel like get more value at the moment and can really punish squishy range units with a single special. Also, Nagi would still like to avoid falchions when possible. For hardy fighter builds, she can run it, but like Rudolf, you kinda want extra cooldown with preferably a follow-up. With Armored Flow, you get protection and some burst damage instead of just pure defense. Now if you're afraid of guard, then Glimmer with breath type cooldown can counteract guard to still get the special counter. Overall, I don't feel like Ethereal Breath's refine is super crazy by itself. It's good, but the additions of Armored Flow and Scowl I think really make Nagi stand out, similar to the Harmonic Tikis. That's already an exclusive combo for dragons, but then you also have the pretty unique Raven Tome and anti-AoE special effects. I will say that if you could control the matchups, Triangle Adept would still be hilarious as an A skill for Nagi. Like the classic Raven Tome setup, you would get a super strong counter into 2 color types. You know, Maribel does exist with her Trilemma plus Cancel Affinity combo. Who knows, maybe something like that will get a future iteration. That will be it for this month's refines. 2 pretty solid armor refines for your savior needs, and we got a couple ranged infantry which might find some use with their new tier 4 no follow-up skills. In terms of gameplay, I was looking forward to seeing what Nagi got due to her unique skill set. Armored Flow is still zonable at the moment, but Scowl will be a bit harder to track down. Just a very expensive build, but it feels like her refine is made with those new skills in mind. Next up, we'll be going over the Book 7 midpoint / not midpoint banner. Thank you for watching though, see you very soon.